Hello, Brubs. We're back with Some of Your Blood by Theodore Sturgeon in 1961 novel, I believe, which is supposed to be about vampires, but I don't think it is. Yeah, 61. We're on part 6. I mean, it's arbitrarily part 6, but it's the sixth part I've read, so let's get to this mother. Well, they say a lot about the army. It is no good. It is hurry up and wait. It is this lousy army. Yeah, Baba. This goddamn army. Well, I am here to tell you there is lots of guys get a better deal in the army they ever got before. There is a lot of them griping the worst. Never had a word to say before they got the wrinkles out of their belly the first time in their whole lives. There is a better grub. There is better grub than army grub, but army grub is a whole lot better than a lot of these guys ever saw before, at least that regular. And you would be surprised how many guys never in their whole life got enough sleep week in, week out, and kept themselves clean before. You do what they tell you and never volunteer. And you find you got a life. You want to worry? Go ahead, but it will be all peanuts and chicken spit. You are worrying about the big things is all thought of out for you. You do not have to worry yourself. I said this before, and I will have to say it again. When you come right down to it, there is not a thing a man needs. Then a way to fill his belly and let somebody take care of all his thinking. He don't have to if he don't want to, and if that is not the army, through and through, I do not know what is. For once in his life, George figured he'd done the right thing. He was sorry sometimes he could not see Anna, but whatever happened to her, she was not alone in the world, and she would be all right unless she died, and then what can you do? Anyway, for the 2 year hitch and training and motor mechanic school, George had everything he wanted, and for once, some money else besides, not else sides. It was the state school all over again for him, only bigger and easier too. When he come to the school, he had to spend a long time learning what to do and what not. But in the army, he already knew. He knew better than a lot of guys who never lived in a dormitory or nobody bothered with him. Nope, that's the wrong line. Than a lot of guys who never lived in a dormitory or a barracks before. He did not bother with nobody, and nobody bothered with him. He was still a big guy who kept his mouth shut, which is the recipe for getting left alone if you want to. I don't know what this newfangled language goon bullshit is, but time come to reenlist he did. You know he did not even take his furlough, but just hung around the base. It was in California. And it could be he fell in this slot people are always falling in, getting the idea that things are going to go on like they are forever. Well, they ain't. First, a lot of rumors, and you know how to shuck off rumors. But what really happened was one of the rumors you shucked off. The whole outfit shipped overseas. Some said it was a war, and some a police action, and I guess it was a big joke to some of them. For George, it was bad. There was nobody to talk to about it, and he would not know what to say if he did. He moved around a lot in the army, Louisiana, New Jersey, Michigan, California, but no move was like this move, and that old hot place come back to him in his gut, and there was not much he could do about it. Overseas, it was not so easy to go off hunting, and there was not much to hunt if you did, and there was none of this trading passes and easy coming and going. Everything was laced up a notch, tight. Then there was drilling, and that never bothered George, but this one day it was on the airstrip, and these three C-119s came in with casualties, and they told off infantrymen for stretcher bearers. They took out 163 stretcher cases altogether, and you see this, and you hear this, and you are never the same again. All you can say about the way George felt is he was a little kid again. He was going to get for something he did or for nothing. The father would do it, but the father coming home, even coming home drunk, did not mean he would get his just then. That was going. No, I fucking missed the sentence. Did not mean he would get his just then. The only thing you could be sure of was getting hit. That was going to happen, and no fooling. You just never knew when, that is all. And George, with the school and the farm, but especially the army, George had like grown away from all that. It was dead and gone and past, so forget it. And then these casualties, they were for real. So getting hit for sure, but you don't know just when. Here it was again, and here it always had been. George thought he left it behind. Well, he did not. And maybe tonight and maybe next week you would go over there where they made stretcher cases out of men. And when you went, maybe you would not get yours tonight or next week, but get it. You positively would. George was not the only one felt this way, and he knew it. Some laughed and talked louder and ran faster and did everything heavier, and some slunk off every chance they got and sat and looked worried, and some spent all their time figuring out how to get loose just one time and get especially drunk. But George, there was only one thing he wanted and needed, and he began to think of Anna. Think of Anna like he never did before. Think of Anna so much he could almost smell Anna the way she was, warm, and there was not nothing he could do about it. That was the worst. So what he done was as hard as anything he ever did, because he never done it before. He decided to write a letter. It must have took him 4 days to write that letter, and most of the time was just sitting looking at the paper. Then he wrote his letter, and that was that. It could not make him feel no better, but it was all he could think of to do, and he'd done it, and there was nothing more he could do. And nobody else knew how he felt. He never was a talker. When somebody talked to him about getting shipped over, he would just smile. I guess nobody really knew at all. Then one day they called him to see this doctor, this colonel, and he went, and that is where I began this story. Phil said I could begin it any place as long as I explained whatever I said. Well, old George Smith just went stateside, and he clammed up like he never did in his life before. And when you come down to it, it is a very good idea nobody bothered him. Once they welded him into that tank because he was away, down deep, crazy mad at first. Not crazy, crazy mad. There's a big difference. So anyone pushing at him when he felt that way, he would have just got stubborn, maybe fight some more. But a crazy mad is like a fire. You shut it up by itself for long enough, it is just naturally going to go out. So one day the door opened and the guard let in this doctor, only he was just a sergeant and not very big. Bigger than Uncle Jim, but not very big. And he had black, bushy hair and glasses, and he right away said he was a doctor all right, but call him Phil, and how did he feel? And George could have broke him in two over his knee or snapped him like a rattlesnake when you want to break his neck. You got no stick. But Phil just waved at the guard, go away, and the guard locked him in, and Phil sat down near him on the bed and handed cigarettes, although this George Smith never did smoke. He wished he did. So Phil was smoking and keeping his mouth shut, and George Smith begun to feel easier, and finally Phil asked him what did he want most of all, and George said, out. And Phil asked why, and George was surprised at this, but if it was a stupid question, Phil did not look stupid. So George said to go back to his girl and get married, because George knew now of all the places in the world he would go to, it would have to be next to Anna. She knew what he was, and she liked it too, and nobody else ever would. And he did not want the army no more, not after those stretcher cases. Then Phil told him he could get out, but he would have to do just what Phil said. And George Smith, he was ready to climb the wall and hang off the ceiling if Phil said to. I have to say here that I trust Phil. He wants me out. I am sure of that. I also don't think he wants this writing of mine to be nothing but the truth. He has got nothing to sell, not to me or to anybody who reads this. I would not believe that at first, but I do now. So he told me to write the story of my life, and I said I did not know how or even where to begin. And he said, begin anywhere, but be sure you explain everything. He said, like a movie or a comic where they start out a guy and is an old man and go back to what happened earlier if I wanted to, just as long as I wrote down everything important so he could understand me better. And he told me if there was trouble getting started, then write it about somebody else's or somebody else, because he said that is a good way to back off from yourself. You remember better. So after he went, I started in. I made up the name George Smith, and he is right. I wrote all the rest of that day, and from then on I did not do nothing but write as long as there was any light. And he come back 2 other times, but I was not finished. So this is the story, and it is all true, and it is all I can remember. I done the best I could. I do not know why I am here or why I was shipped stateside here to this nut factory instead of the can for just hitting an officer. I am not crazy. Anyone is who thinks so. All I want is out. I want out of here, and I want out of the army. I had enough. All I want is to go back to my girl. We will get married and leave there, or maybe from some place, or a store. What a weird ending to this section. All right, let's keep going. Here is another of the letters with the letterhead discarded. Looney Bin Lane, Oregonia, Oregon. Or is it Oregon? Dear Phil, damn it, February 26th of some year. With all I've got to do, I have been sitting here pulling on my lower lip and wondering what to say to you. I'm going to tell you right at the start that when I first got that bundle of paper from you and determined it wasn't the Sunday Chronicle complete with the spring fashion supplement, I was mad as hell, and I suppose I still am. And I began by feeling that George Smith should be thrown out of that maniac's motel of yours, and I wound up feeling the same way, but you made me laugh. Oregon. Oregon. My mother's from Oregon. It's Oregon. Gin, like Gen. 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 Oregon. Yeah, it's kind of like Oregon, but Oregon. Oregon. Well, of course, you stinking psychologist, you. Anything you might have said to me, I'd have. That's a fucking tough contraction. I'd have spit in your eye for after all this time. If I thought about you and George at all, I thought no news is good news, and you'd finish with it. Then you send me his autobiography with no comment at all, just nothing. So, ruefully, it is to laugh. I know what you're up to. You want me to react, i.e., think. Now you know damn well an administrator doesn't have time to think any more than he has time to plow through a testament like this. You also know me well enough to know Oregon. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Megan Smith. You saved my life tonight. You also know me well enough to know I'd leaf through it and get hauled in and then go back and start over and hit every word. And be impressed by the effort that went into it, not excluding your pecking it all out on the typewriter. What's the matter? Haven't you got enough work to do? Seriously, Phil, I know you did it instead of sleeping, and cut that out. I need you. You're going to kill yourself. Now about the biography. I am doubtless much more impressed by the pathetic horror of it than a case-hardened character like you. I am also impressed by this kid's descriptive ability. I don't know how a fourth-grade English teacher would parse some of his sentences, like his description of the weathered knot of wood in the boat's side. You see things like that sometimes that, though they do not move your eye keeps going. They do not move, your eye keeps going into and out of, and around and back again. There are 2 spirals of hair on a cat's back that way. but I never failed to get exactly what he meant. And aside from the one or two real insights he comes up with, as for example that discussion on sex and the machine precise, almost delicate distinction he draws between satisfy and relieve, I am impressed by the completeness of his story. To this jaundiced eye, he has left out nothing of significance. His portrait of himself is filled in to a substantial solid and contains no appreciable holes. What he has left out, like the exact details of his sex techniques with Anna, shouldn't bother anyone except a grubby clinician like yourself, who is beyond the reach of the chivalrous asterisk. I think there are a great many folks on the loose, people who would pass anyone's sanity standards with flying colors, who are in themselves a lot sicker than this boy. He's one of the few human beings I've ever heard of who seems to have placed sex in a genuinely wholesome perspective. He's inordinately self reliant as long as he's alone. He could no more be lost than a cat can be lost, and that brings up what, to my mind, is the real nature of his sickness, if any, and it isn't his sickness. I said above that many certifiably sane people are in themselves sicker than George. Where we can raise an eyebrow at George is in matters which concern not a person, but people. No human being, not even George, lives entirely alone. Interpersonal flux isn't just fun or convenient or decent or orthodox. It is essential, vital. Homo sap is an interdependent species. He may not live alone, and it's easy to describe how George relates to people. He doesn't. Yet, in him, I don't think it matters. He found Anna. There's an odd aura about that relationship, but whatever it is, and I'm not prying, it's suitably convexo conclave. If you see what I mean, she sounds like a girl with pieces missing, but she has the ones he needs. To sum up, I think this guy's only sickness is scar tissue from a regrettable childhood, and his only real crime is in being a loner. It feels criminal to us gregarious souls because we don't think we could do it. It's, well, unfashionable. It makes us uneasy because of an in the cells certainty we all have that without our fellows we could not survive. In a herd and hive culture like ours, a solitary bent seems in a way immoral. Tisk, tisk. All the foregoing, he said modestly, is of bull session character. This isn't my specialty. It's yours. For all my irritation, I am grateful to you, old buddy, for a fascinating hour. Now, for Christ's sake, turn him loose, as ever, Al. P.S. What in God's name do you suppose was in that air letter that alerted the Major? Here is the carbon copy of a letter. Lingham Lane, Catamite, California, February 28th. I'm guessing OR is for Oregon. Oregon. Dear Colonel, Corps of the Nut, delighted with your letter, your wisdom, your insight, your perspicacity. You're wrong. One, there are appreciable holes in George's narrative, and two, his attitude toward sex is not wholesome. Having said which, with such positiveness, I'll have to be honest and say for item one that I don't know. Pardon. I don't know what the holes are, just where they are. For item two, I don't think his sexual approach is wholesome, but I do not affirm it is unwholesome either. This is not juggling with accepted norms, which are, as you know, pretty weird in places. It's just that I don't know what his sex matrix is. I'm only sure it will bear investigation. Thank you, bruv. Sister bruv, if that's what you are. I just call everyone bruv because, people call everyone bro, so I just call them bruv, like I'm a fake Brit. Like yourself, I've been busy with several thousand other things while all this is going on, and I must remind you that this correspondence for all these weeks results just from his voluntary bio and our evaluation of it. I think it's about time I scheduled some real time for him and started digging. I'll let you know what happens. Thanks again for a grand letter. Love, Phil. Here is a letter. Office of the Administrator, Field Hospital Headquarters, Portland, Oregon. Oregon, March 2nd. Phil, I'll say this as gently as possible. Friendship and off-the-record correspondence as factors alpha and beta are desirable as long as they do not interfere with gamma. That is, the job. Alpha and beta are absolutely wonderful where they help with the job, but if gamma is injured or slowed, beta will have to go, and if necessary, alpha. Because, old buddy, gamma is bigger than both of us. I'm using Greek letters because you're an intellectual, and I don't want to insult you with ABCs. But, Phil, it really is that simple. I could say I suspect you've been working so hard, and well, I cordially add that your judgment is wavering, and or I can suggest that your really admirable preoccupation with your speciality has you chasing subtleties at a time when gross shoveling is piling up on you. This is to your personal credit, but no good for the shop. I can even concede that you are right about this patient, but still insist that if he is tilted, it's not enough to roll a marble, shunt him out and forget him, or if you must, keep track of him and bring him some aspirin when you graduate to being a civilian. Ball. What's BAW? Or finally, I can say, and you know damn well I will if I have to, that you have to take my orders. Sergeant Outerbridge. Or is it Outerbridge? Even if you know I am wrong, even if you know I'm wrong. If you know I know I'm wrong. Give me credit for effort literally above and beyond the call of duty. On behalf of the above-mentioned Alpha, it would cost me to lose it. Still your friend, Al. Here is the carbon copy of a letter. Base Hospital Number 2, Smithton Township, California. Staff Office. Colonel. Saw. I guess that's supposed to be like a Southern accent. I yield to superior numbers and eagles. I am, as of above, date drafting and ordered a sounding diagnosis. I'm sorry you had to get stuffy about it, Al. I can see why, but I have to say I'm sorry you did. Oh well, old Alpha can stand it, I guess. While I'm sounding, and I'm not dragging my feet on it, sir, here's one thing for you to chew on in your idle moments. Exactly why did the fully filled in, admirably portrayed GI blow his stack when asked that specific question by the majors? Yours obediently, Phil. Here is the answer. Same place. Simestite, Oregon, March 13th. Phil, you louse, you have the damnedest way of slipping live ants under a man's scalp. Aside from the fact that I have no idle moments, which you know I made up my mind not to use them on any such dead issue. After 4 days, it bothered me enough that I dug out Smith's manuscript to find out exactly what it was the major asked him when he blew his top. It was, and I quote, "What do you hunt for, George? I mean, exactly, what do you get out of it?" And then bang. For 2 more days, I made up my mind, quite often, to forget it. So now, not that it matters, but just for the sake of peace, sweet suffering peace, Mr. Bones, why did the nice man blow his stack? Is that a reference to John Barrowman? Not that it matters, really. You don't have to answer this. Al, a carbon copy. And I say that because in John Barrowman's, what's those called? The Dream Songs, there was a character named Mr. Bones. Weird. Higley Hatch, Covercrotch, California, Oregon, March 15th. I don't know, Al. Shall I ask him? Phil. A letter. Base Hospital Headquarters, Portland, Oregon. Oregon, March 16th. No. AW. A telegram. Sergeant Philip Outerbridge, Base Hospital Number 2, Smithton Township, California, March 16, 6:12 p.m. So ask him, Al. Another telegram. Sergeant Philip Uterbridge, Base Hospital Number 2, Smithton Township, California, March 16th, 6:21 p.m. Have guard present, that is in order. Colonel Albert Williams. Vultures Vestry, Luna Park, California, Oregon, March 17th, Bagora. Dear Al, I was really touched by your second wire to me last evening. Imagine, it's the first time you actually pulled rank on me, and here I am touched. Actually, your posture of command of recent date so chastened me that I sprang to obey on receipt of your first telegram and did not get the second heartwarming one until I came back downstairs. Work proceeds apace on the clever, knowledgeable diagnosis and recommendation for medical discharge, and I imagine we will have it processed in the next few hours, or say 24, as ever, Phil. Let me mark this past page so I can check that for a John Barrowman reference. Barrowman. P.S. Oh, sure. And you'll be wanting to know what the man said. And that's PHWAT. What the man said. March 17th always boots me right in the earth. He said, and with perfect calm, Colonel, he trusts me, you know, which he will not when, God willing, I get my silver bars, which should be about the time he leaves here. Man, it seems I have been waiting half my life for that commission. Tell me, Al, will I feel as good to get that lowly captain's insignia as you did to get your lofty eagles? But I digress. The man said when I asked him why he blew up when the major asked him what he got out of hunting small game, you'll remember, he stated in his manuscript that he disapproved of killing for killing's sake. So it wasn't that. And as for the obvious, I don't think he once mentions hunger in connection with hunting. Also, he frequently went for periods of months and even years without the slightest desire to hunt. Anyway, what he answered was simply that he exploded because he thought the major had found out what it was. When I asked him why that should have bothered him, he explained carefully to me that he never was mad at the major. The major was a nice man. He was mad at himself because he had given himself away. The MPs grabbed him while he was mad, hence the Donnybrook. Bagora. The major pitched in to help and got his nose in the way. Son of a bitch. Oh, son of a bitch. Get in there and don't move again. Understand me, you bastard? Thank you. He affirms that if nobody had grabbed him, nothing would have happened, but his cut hand when he squashed the water glass. I hope that answers your question, Al. Peace, peace, sweet suffering peace. He'll be a civilian ere the dew drenches the shamrock, or shortly thereafter. P.O. Base Hospital Headquarters, Portland, Oregon. Oregon, March 19th. I don't know why they have to keep putting OR. But there it is. Dear Phil, I see what you're up to some degree. There's a distinction between absolute and implicit obedience. Forever discovered and rediscovered in the ranks and used to bug the officers for all your light-hearted blarney. You see, I'm not immune to the passing of Padraic. You're still bleeding about my pulling rank on you. I can even see how you finagled me into asking you just that question. Why did George blow his biscuit? When it was perfectly clear I was interested in the same thing the major was. What was his compulsion to hunt, if not for killing nor hunger? If he's still around by the time you get this, see if you can find out. And look, just to forestall any of your neuron prodding, puppet pulling monkey shines, let's drop this explicit answer to explicit question bit. If you get an answer to this question, don't go giving it to me with a teaser on it for the next one. Oh, God damn it to hell, Phil. You're bound on this, aren't you? If I don't give you your head with this patient, you'll tweeze me to death with your niggling little pokes and pinches. And you know damn well I need you where you are. And trust me, that's not the N word. So don't even censor me, you bastards. Working as hard as you can. Which I gather means working happy. My alternative is to pitch you in the stockade or transfer you out. And you know I can't. Okay, then go ahead, but give everything you can to everything else. Either get results with him or kick him out. It's lucky for you we're friends. It's lucky for me. You know how to keep your. I thought it said yawn, but it does say you. You know how to keep your trap shut. As for nature, boy, I still think you are wrong. Hurry up and prove it, Al. The Happy Hutch, Far Out, California, Oregon, March 21st. Dear Al, bless you, boy. I have everything lined up. Thematic, apperception, Rorschach, projective personality from profile to Patagonia. As for the other work, buddy, you got yourself a dynamo. You have never seen processing like you'll see it now. Thanks, and don't ever ask me if I really did start a discharge for George. Gratefully, Phil. Schizoid Center, Split Conk, Oregon, March 23rd. Dear Phil, don't thank me, friend, and don't worry. I won't ask you if you really were processing that discharge. You have your dead old colonel completely submissive and under your thumb and willing to do anything to assist you. Like I'm holding up your commission until you're quite finished with your authorial playmate. So your being an officer won't upset him. A tough case, Phil, but I'll go along with you if it takes years. Cordially, Al. And that is going to be the end of this rendering of the fat, which is this book. Maybe he's killing these animals to drink blood. I don't know. I can't fathom. Maybe this ain't even a fucking vampire book. But I'm guessing that's Anna right there. And that's George. That must be the kid. Maybe the kid's a vampire. I guess we got what? Fucking 50 pages to find out. And that goes to 143. And we're at 82, so guess we'll find out eventually. Goodbye, bruv. Goodbye, bruv. Bye. Goodbye.